Yeah, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Hey, everybody. Welcome to the live stream where we do it live. Let me know if anybody's in here. I don't think anybody's here yet. I will tell you about my mildly crazy weekend, I guess. I know, Joan. Joan was very unhappy. Wait, can I even do this? I don't think I can. Nuts. Do this over Twitter. It's the next place to do this. Let's see. I have to do this. Oh, there we go. No, didn't want to do it that. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go to. Forget it. Forget it. I told Twitter. That's the main one. Oh man. All right. So while I wait to see if anybody drifts in here, so Saturday, I thought I was going to get rained out. I was doing this signing at the LBI book swap, and they're in this complex. It's like a multi-level boardwalk. It's really hard for me to get up there with my books because I put them on a cart and then I push the whole thing, and it's not. They have a handicap ramp, but it's really steep, and I got a lot of books, so it was like I piled everything in the cart and pushed it up there, and it's kind of tough. And then normally I'm set up outside, and it's not usually a problem because of the weather, although it gets a little windy. Oh, here's Ardent. Hail, Stormy's on book 4 of the Pineys. Ooh, cool. Thanks, guys. I hope you're liking it, Stormy. I hope you're liking it. Thank you very much for your purchase. Ardent Anne loves them. Oh, that's nice. Thank you so much. Book 4, Feud of the Pineys. It's got the hunter on the cover. Everybody loves that cover. They love that cover. I love all the covers. I love all my children equally. So LBI, I couldn't set up my tent. It was going to rain. It's really not a place where I could set my tent up. I thought they had inside space for me, but they were like, no, we can't put you inside. And I'm just like, well, maybe we'll reschedule. Oh, that reminds me. I forgot to call them today. Call them Monday. So I got to reschedule that. Probably reschedule it for August and come back, hopefully. But today was pretty good. I went to this, I'll say it one more time. It was the 25th annual Cowtown Truck, Car, Motorcycle Showdown at the Salem County Fairground. And it was a bit, I don't know, it was, they didn't run things like I would have run them. They were a little scatterbrained about it. And it was kind of like every man for himself. Like I get in there and they're just like, oh, go see if there's any spaces left. And I was just like, you don't have anything marked out. I just picking a space, and they're like, yeah. So I went up there. Unfortunately, I found a space. I mean, there was plenty of spaces, so it wasn't that crowded. But I was expecting something much bigger and crazier, and more official. And then everybody was like parking in front of their own booth, and I suggested to people, well, maybe we'll move our cars because nobody could see us behind our cars. And so people kind of went, yeah, that's a good idea. And thankfully, and we moved our cars, and so there were a lot of motorcycle clubs at the show. So I saw some of those guys roaming around. A few of them bought books, and that was nice. And I sold 2 full sets of the Pineys, so that was a nice sale, nice couple of sales, and then a bunch of other books. So it was a good day, and it didn't rain at all. But then I got home, and maybe like 20 minutes after I got back, man, it poured. It poured like I hadn't seen it pour here in a while. Buckets and buckets just pouring down on the house. And my gutters were overflowed, and I thought, oh my God, they're blocked, and there's so much rain. So I got out the ladder in the rain and went up there and like reached into the spot where it always clogs, and it was kind of like partially blocked, but not much. And there was water pouring out of the gutter, so it wasn't like it was really blocked. And I'm just like, there's just too much rain. That's why I look like a drowned rat by the way, because I got all wet and then I just dried out. Anyhow, Joan is being very sassy these days. She wants to go OUT, but she doesn't understand the concept of rain. I let her out to the back door, and she sees the rain and then runs away from the door and then asks me, well, let's go out the front door then. And I try to explain to her, no, dog, it's also raining at the front door too. But she doesn't quite get it until I open that door and show her, and then she's like, oh. But let's get to the box office, because very interesting box office this week. Very interesting. So, The Flash was #1 last week, and it dropped 72%. And everybody's talking about this, and I'm sure there'll be lots of videos on Monday. So that's a 72% drop. It's in the most theaters right now, and it dropped by 72%. That is not good. This movie is done. It did 15.2 million domestically, narrowly beating No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence, who is naked in that, by the way, full frontal, as the rumor, which did 15.1. So, looking at The Flash, it's only done 87 million domestically and 123 million internationally. That's a grand total of 210. Arden, the lack of meteorological knowledge of the canine species is shameful. Joan dishonors her ancestors. Yes. Yes, she does. Right, Joan? Yeah, you don't know. You're a dog. So, what the hell, Warner Brothers? Why did you release this thing? Why did you release this thing? Ezra Miller is an albatross around your neck. I told you you could have deep faked him right out of the movie. And then I would have felt fine going to see the movie if you had specifically, even if you had to pay him. Like, you probably would have had to pay him. There's contracts. He was probably they already shot a bunch of stuff. Although not necessarily, they might have gotten him on breach of contract. Because when an actor signs deals like this, a lot of times there's some sort of behavioral clause in the contract. They might have been able to shaft him completely if they wanted. Completely. But let's assume he was locked in. You had to pay him anyway. Okay. But the problem is not necessarily him or his acting. The problem is him. He is not, he doesn't have a good rep, I'll say. Carter Chain is here. Did see some theaters are doing buy one, get one free deals for The Flash? I did not. Now, how's that work on the box office, I wonder? Now, do they count that as 2 tickets, or do they count that as 1? So are they trying to pump their numbers? Did they pump their numbers just to make sure they didn't embarrass themselves this weekend? Because I could see them doing that if the numbers are counted as 2 ticket sales. Huh. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, buy one, get one free. Hey, honey, let's go see The Flash. Who's in that? Oh, you know that weirdo, Ezra Miller? Oh, yeah. Like, again, the technology exists to deep fake him out of the movie. Now, I suggested Elliot Page only because you would have negated any chance of Ezra coming out and saying, oh, you did this because I'm non-binary or whatever he's claiming he is. He's full of it, I think, but that would completely negate it. And Elliot's at least as big a star as Ezra, or at least Elliot was, I'll say. Now, I'm not so sure. Elliot hasn't been in really anything since, So that would have been one way. The other way would have been to deep fake the CW Flash right over him and pretend like he was always in the movie. Both of them. Both Ezra Millers. Just deep fake them right out of the movie and put the Barry Allen that everybody likes from the CW in it, and pretend like it's just him. It's just Barry. He was always Barry. He was always the Flash. Ardent. Comment regarding Ezra Miller redacted for excessive profanity and potential criminality. Now, that's not an actual edit, I don't think. I think that's just Ardent fooling around. But who knows with YouTube these days? Make it more sophisticated with editing our comments and words. I'm sure they'll be able to do it visually and audio-wise live one day. Like, one day the AI will scan videos as they're being made and change the words on the fly. I think the technology exists. Anyhow, there were so many things you could have done to just deep fake Ezra Miller right the F out of this. Right the F out of this. And you could have kept his acting. Ardent, Grant Gustin is a good Flash. I've heard. I've never seen him in the show. I don't watch the CW. I don't have TV anymore. But yeah, fans would have enjoyed it. You would have removed the problem. And what is Ezra Miller going to do? Oh, he's going to say, well, you fired me because I'm non-binary. Dude, you committed crimes, allegedly. You're on trial. You were going on trial for them. I mean, it would have been a perfect situation for, at least for the fans and the movie. Yeah, your ESG, I guess your ESG score would have suffered if you brought the guy in from the CW, but I mean, is this better? Is this better to lose money on the hundreds of millions of dollars on the film? Ardent, I watched until it went full CW. Oh, it went woke? You already had Michael Keaton. Another problem with the Flash, just in general, he's not a very big character. He's just not. He's about on par with Green Lantern. People kind of know him, but he's not the big character. He's just sort of there. I like the character. I think they could have done a lot with him. Ezra Miller's a completely wrong guy to cast. He doesn't look like Barry. He's too scrawny and weird and annoying. Ezra Miller would have made a better Robin, Jason Todd Robin than Flash, because Jason Todd was a little off. He would have made a better Joker or Scarecrow than the Flash. I don't know why you cast him as a Flash. Hollywood is utterly obsessed with taking people, I think, actors who are, or even writers and directors, like, oh, you do the complete opposite of what we're looking for? Perfect. Rather than hire somebody who looks and acts wholesome like Barry Allen, the character does, they find somebody like Ezra Miller who, I mean, I'm sure he wasn't exactly a clean-cut kid when they initially hired him, judging by his previous actions, allegedly. Ardent. Ardent says Diddler, not a typo. Oh, like that would be the Diddler, like the Riddler. I get it. Yeah, it's like Hollywood hires the opposite people for everything, and this has been a problem at Marvel Comics. Hey, would you like to write comics? Well, I've never written a comic book before. Perfect. And I kind of hate superheroes. Oh, yeah, stop selling me. I get that you don't, although, in previous years they hired guys like Mark Waid, who came out of the fandom and was hardcore. Mark Waid's like hardcore fan, in case you don't know it. That guy could beat you in a DC trivia contest any day of the week. But he turned out to be a good writer. I got to give him some credit. I mean, Kingdom Come was a decent. I mean, not now, not since TDS, but in the past he had written some halfway decent runs and stuff. Razor Fist absolutely hates the run he did on the Daredevil. But for what he did for a while, he seemed to be doing well. Now they hire guys girls and something else to because they have no expertise at all in the characters, attempting to get something new. Sif Sifa is here. Hello. Happy surprise. Or happy sunrise, you bastards. Some of us aren't sleeping ever again, it seems. So here I am. Hello. Why so insomniac, Sif Sifa? And what time is it where you are? I assume you're in the UK. Anyhow, The Flash looks to be a complete and utter failure, and the nerds will be trashing it all week, I'm sure. And the blame game should be starting probably about Tuesday, I'm going to say. But so that was the most interesting sort of matchup here. Number one was the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Went from 3 back to number 1? That's crazy. But that just shows you how kind of rough this weekend was. No Hard Feelings is a comedy, and it's really tough for a comedy to hit the top of the charts, especially these days. But I'll say it again, No Hard Feelings looks like a halfway decent flick. And it doesn't hurt that Jennifer Lawrence is apparently completely naked in it. Ardent at Sif Sifa. Insomnia, take a sledgehammer for that. Sif Sifa moved countries from Ireland to Lithuania. 4 a.m., everything is weird. Yeah, but the phone doesn't ring. That's when I like to write. It's nice and quiet, though, isn't it? Ardent, that's good to be, but serious culture shock, I would think. Yeah, I mean, Ireland is, everything I know about Ireland's culture I get from the Try channel, but those guys seem fairly average Irish. And Lithuania I know very little about. I would assume it's kind of like, I don't know, Belgium or Germany in that respect, or at least the way Germany used to be before it became super ultra woke. Sif Sifa at Ardent, comically large cartoon sledgehammer. Well, your clock is probably all messed up. They say you can only turn your clock about an hour a day, so don't try to turn it all at once. Just adjust it by an hour each day until you get to where you need to be. Ardent at Sif, is there any other kind? So, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse at 19.3 million. I guess. I mean, it's did well. We're in our 4th week here, and that's the number 1 movie. These guys must be going nuts. They can't. I bet they can't. I bet they already put the 3rd movie in production at this point. 560 million. That sounds like money. Sif Sifa, I spent my whole adult life in Ireland and am now home. Oh, it's only 2 hours difference, and it's been 2 weeks. Weird. Maybe it's the water. Elemental. 18.4 million. I don't know how this movie's making any money. It's done 121 million. That's not good for a Pixar movie. In fact, this is shaping up to be the worst Pixar movie in terms of money. Maybe it might edge out Lightyear, but I don't know. Doesn't sound that. I'll say one thing they did. They didn't advertise the non-binary character they slipped in there, which was probably a good move. Probably helped it a little bit, but the problem is not the movie per se. The problem is Disney now. Disney's brand, they've trashed their own brand. How are you going to build the brand back? What does your brand even mean? It's not kids' movies anymore. I mean, you can keep saying it. Nobody believes it, I don't think. It's like Bud Light saying you're an American beer. I think that ship has sailed. I think the ship has sailed for Disney to be kid-friendly ever again. You've sort of broken the trust with your fans. And that once that trust is broken, I don't think you'll ever get it back, really. Maybe in a generation. And that would be a generation of stop doing woke idiocy. But I guess at least you're making some money from the Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse because that's Sony, but they got to give you some of the money. And amazingly, that's still making Sony money. That's how much money that movie franchise is making. Um, yeah, and then The Flash, then No Hard Feelings, which surprisingly also got an international release. Ooh, excuse me, something fell out of my nose. Ugh, gross. Um, 9.5 million overseas. What international markets is this in? Huh, quite a few. That's unusual for a comedy because it typically doesn't translate. Ardent at Sif Sifa, was the new Irish part of the reason? Because yeah, they just don't translate. It's done 24 million worldwide. This movie probably didn't have a gigantic budget, but we'll see. Sif Sifa, when Disney pretended to be capitalist money pigs, they at least had decent work. But looking at their history, they were always about pure social engineering, so at least now they're honest. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I can't say I even miss the old Disney because I hated Disney. I just have always hated Disney. Maybe back in the day when they were super based and Walt Disney actually ran it, I would have liked it. But yeah, they're always sort of this ruthless company. I think that's part of the reason it's not family run. It was a family branded, but it wasn't really family run. I think if it was run by the family, it'd probably be falling apart because typically the sons and daughters of the rich can't live up to their parents because they didn't make themselves. They were just born into it. But I think that would have been better than the current situation where they're just ruthlessly corporate in my view. Ardent, is Craven part of the same cinematic universe as Venom? That's an excellent question. I'd assume so, but I'm not sure. I mean, like, didn't they have to make Tom Hardy disappear in order to bring him into the universe with Spider-Man or something? I don't know. I haven't been following that, but I'd assume so. And when do we get our Venom versus Spider-Man movie? I don't know if we're ever going to get that. Sif Sifa, new Irish were flooding my estate, yes, but we were planning to go since 2019. Okay. Yeah, so this No Hard Feelings, I kind of want to see it. I still want to see The Machine, too, but time is ticking away, and I think I'm going to end up seeing that on a streamer. But, yeah, I mean, to see Jennifer Lawrence totally nude and a movie that looks halfway decent vulgar comedy, sure. Sounds like it's right up my alley. I'm waiting for the naked stills of Jennifer Lawrence to drop all over the internet. Because I'm sure that's going to happen on, was the website Mr. Skin? Carter Chain, I'm actually planning to see No Hard Feelings. It seems like it's just a fun movie. Yeah, it looked good. The trailer looked great. Number 5, down from 4, Transformers Rise of the Beast. And I've heard good things about this movie, that it's kind of okay. Surprisingly, but I'm just sick of they kind of screwed up the Transformers franchise. 11.6 million. But whatever. Here's another big drop, or a drop. Ardent finally saw Mobius. Terrible adaptation, decent film, I thought. Oh, really? What, Joan? Do you want to get down? You leaving? Come here. All right, there you go. Thanks for staying for a while, Joan. Joan is bailing. There you go. Sif Sifa. How do you guys look at Jennifer Lawrence and not think back to, quote, nature is angry at Trump rant? Her boobs make me forget. I don't consider Jennifer Lawrence a font of wisdom when it comes to politics. That's not why I'm interested in her. I'm interested in her because she can act and she's smoking hot. When she stops being smoking hot, well, Ardent, she's got great tatas. Yes, she does. You know, it's why I can ignore when Scarlett Johansson says something stupid. When any of these hot broads say something stupid, I can't ignore Jane Fonda anymore. She's not hot. And quite frankly, she hasn't been in a good movie in a long time. Sif Sifa, oh men, never mind. Yeah, I wouldn't, I don't know if I could date Jennifer Lawrence. She seems like she's got some red flags. Seems kind of like Scarlett Jo. I would totally date her. Oh wow, she seems like a sweetheart. Jennifer seems like she's a little messed up, which would be hotter in some respects, but it feels like I would have one of those volatile relationships with her, and then it would end poorly. Ardent, boobs. That one's for Stormy. Ha! So Asteroid City, and this is the second week, has dropped to 6. I think last week it was at 4. I don't remember. Let me see. Previous chart. Where the hell is it? Oh no, it was way down. It was like number 10. Oh, but it was only in 6 theaters last week. I think Asteroid City, they're massaging the numbers a little bit in order to not make it lose against these bigger films, perhaps. Carter, I'd give dating Jennifer Lawrence a try for sure. Absolutely. Oh, dating, absolutely. It's the relationship part. He'd be like, I don't know about you, Jennifer. You're kind of annoying. But like, Scarlett Johansson seems like a total sweetheart to me. Jennifer Lawrence seems like the type that might get mad at you and like break your stuff. She's and that she's a little intense. But again, that's super hot. I don't know. I have a thing for bad girlfriends, so don't go by me. Ardent, I'd rather date Alyssa Milano and hate myself. Woof. I don't know, man. Alyssa Milano's really annoying. I don't even know if I could date her. Maybe back in the day before she got political, but not now. God. Sif Sifa, my fella starts complaining when there's a female character and no boobs in the first 15 minutes of any movie. As well he should. I mean, what is this world coming to when you don't get boobs in the first 15 minutes of a movie? In fact, what did I say? I just said about what movie franchise needed boobs. Oh, Extraction. That was the only thing it needed. It needed a boob scene, and it doesn't have one. It needed a ridiculous, gratuitous strip club scene for no reason. Carter Chain. Jen can break my stuff. I don't own anything. Yeah, you say that though, but as the saying goes, show me a hot chick and I'll show you the guy that's sick of, I'll say dating her, to be less vulgar. Asteroid City though, well, it did 9 million, and it's only in half as many theaters. So by that metric, it really should be number 2 if it was in more theaters. Because you figured it would do 18 million if it was in twice as many theaters. So they should probably give this a wider release. Ardent, gratuitous strip club scene is mandatory. Of course. You will meet me at the club. Just hot girls walking around stripping, and then the exposition happens, and then there's naked girls in the background. It's a tradition. Um, but Asteroid City does look very good, at least in terms of its look. I'm not so sure about the story. Variety called it charmless comedy, I think, or one of the big trades called it charmless. Um, I don't know. They may be mad at Wes Anderson because he refuses to roll over on Bill Murray and call him an a-hole because of they tried to Me Too Bill Murray. So it may be that they're trying to marginalize Wes Anderson slightly or punish him. Carter Chain. Any Steven Seagal movie has a lot of boobs, and it still doesn't make his movies tolerable. You make a strong point. Still, though, there have been quality boobs in Seagal movies. I don't know. Yeah, it's Steven Seagal really. Although, if you laugh at Steven Seagal, the movie is very different, and it is tolerable, I would say. Ardent Seagal has the boobs now, though. I'll tell you the funniest thing of all time was Steven Seagal's reality show where he plays a cop. Well, he is a cop, apparently. He's like some deputy somewhere. Man, that was the funniest damn show ever, because every episode was Steven Seagal trying to be a cop, and it was clear, like, he's not really the cop. He's, like, on this show to pretend to be one. Oh, man. You gotta watch it. If you ever find the reruns of that, it's so funny. So it's like Cops, but with Steven Seagal inserting himself in every traffic stop. And literally he's inserting himself into the situation because it's clear, like, he's completely not needed, and then he gets recognized every once in a while, which is even funnier. Hey, are you Steven Seagal? Steven Seagal's arresting me. At Carter, Seagal movies, or Sif Sifa at Carter. Seagal movies are more slapstick than the Three Stooges for me. Ardent, Sifa, LOL, fair point. Ardent, deputy sheriff in Louisiana. That was it. I thought it was Arizona, but yeah. Sif Sifa, I'd watch the S out of that. It was very funny. He played it so straight, and he's so unconvincing. Oh, man. I would laugh so hard at that show, I wouldn't even hear half of it, and then later I'd have to go back and watch it again because I missed everything. Oh, man. We're going to pull over this guy for speeding and see if he has any trouble. He'd be explaining the most obvious stuff, and then the other cops would just be like sort of sit next to him doing all the work. Excuse me. Arden at Sif. It's called Steven Seagal Lawman. IIRC. Oh, man. So, Asteroid City probably should get wider release at this point. I don't know. It's done $16 million. This movie had to cost a fortune to shoot, though. Between the visuals and the name actors in it, Jesus H. Christmas had to cost a fortune. I would ballpark it at $100 million. Or close to it, my God. No way this movie's cheap. Although Wes Anderson's sort of like the new director every actor wants to be in his movies, and maybe he gets a break on the actors because of that, the famous guys, because they just want to be in his movies. But yeah, they should have given this movie a bigger release, but I guess it's more of an art house thing. Number 7 is The Little Mermaid. This is still in theaters. 8.6 million. Another flop for Disney. Apparently, it's going to crack 500 million worldwide. That's pretty bad if that movie's flopped for 500. I mean, your movie makes 500 million and it's a flop? How much did you spend on this thing? I gotta think that's a little bit of money. I gotta think that's at least break even. They say it's a flop, but I would say that's at least break even. I don't think they could have spent more than $500 million, even with the advertising. Plus, they're making money on the soundtrack. That's a one movie. The soundtrack is definitely going to sell, only because Haley Bailey is her name, is already an established singer, and people like the Little Mermaid song. So, if they had just released the album, that's what they should have done. They should have just released an album and made a bunch of money that way, and just completely not even done this stupid movie. Guardians of the Galaxy is number 8 at 3.5 million. There's a lot of old movies in this mix. Still at 826 million worldwide. That is definitely money. Not going to make $1 billion, but between this and the Mario Brothers movie, Chris Pratt brought in $2 billion. His box office is pretty good. Pretty good. IMDb used to rate stars on box office. They used to have a little chart. I don't think they have it anymore. He would be top tier at this point. The money he's bringing in. Ardent, call it a flop and have the excuse to stop race swap live adaptions? I think you got to just stop live adaptions. I mean, why do the Jungle Book? That didn't make any sense either. Even though Favreau directed it, I just was like, why would he choose to do this? The only thing I could think of is Disney just said, oh, we're going to just give you a mountain of money. And Favreau went, well, I'm not going to say no to a mountain of money. I mean, who would? I'm sure I'd be dragged into one of these things. I mean, if the money was right, but it's like, is there no one to go, this is a dumb idea? No one in Hollywood is willing to say that anymore. It's like, and you think like, oh, you see movies being made in the movies, right? Like a movie about the movie industry, and you see characters that are overly, agreeable and all that kind of stuff. They actually exist in LA. I mean, everybody's that way. They're so desperate. There's an air of desperation in Hollywood you cannot describe unless you've been there. And it permeates almost every aspect of life there. It's so weird. And before I moved out there, I said, yeah, everybody wants to be in movies, but it's not everybody. No, it's everybody. It's everybody in LA, right? So you go somewhere and you talk to a waitress, she's an actress. You go somewhere and you strike up a conversation in the line at Starbucks. The guy behind you is a screenwriter. The guy ahead of you is doing some work on some movie. I mean, it's everybody. I got accosted by a homeless guy in L.A. He had a briefcase. I'll never forget that. It's like, you have a briefcase. He asked me for a quarter. I said, you have a briefcase. Sell the briefcase for a quarter. But I was convinced it was full of screenplays. To this day, I'm convinced it was full of screenplays. Sif Sifa at Ardent, whatever it takes to stop the ginger genocide. Ardent, I want Disney to do a race swap live Tarzan with a black man. I don't even think I should finish that one, Ardent. Yeah, no, they're never going to do that. Ardent, Sif, indeed, ginger supremacy. Well, I mean, you don't have souls, so... Yeah, they just need to stop all this live action nonsense. What they need to do is go back to smaller movies. That's number one, right? No Hard Feelings is probably a much cheaper movie, which will make more money. Like, it's not going to make $1 billion, but it's going to make a profit, right? So if you can't shoot a movie for, say, under $20 million, it's ridiculous. They should be shooting movies for like about $20 million at most. And I'm not talking like big stunts and all that kind of crap. I'm just talking like regular movies, especially comedies. They should be cranking out $20 million movies all the time. Because those movies, you put them out for $20 million, okay, you spend another $20 million to advertise them. Now you're at $40 million. Those movies can easily make $100 million. Easily. with the distribution, especially with the distribution system they have in place from like Disney. So, okay, you make a $40 million movie, you make a $20 million movie, you spend $20 million to advertise it, it costs $40 million, and you double your money. You make 10 of those movies, and you make $1 billion. It's not rocket science. Ardent, I am not soulless. I love James Brown. Ah! Get back. Kiss myself. So, I mean, like, Asteroid City is a little different. That needed a lot of money. Transformers, that needed a lot of money, but they probably shouldn't have made it. It's kind of over. And the more these things cost, the more you're risking. No Hard Feelings was a smaller risk, and it's already paying off. The Flash, this is why Warner Brothers is going to lose money. Cartoons, they're kind of separate, kind of a different deal. They're always expensive, but they've Pixar's kind of s the bed now twice. They need to move on from their woke tardetry. Number 9 is another movie I gotta talk about because it's so insane. All right, it's called The Blackening. Sif Sifa, some of my favorite music is made by James Brown. He is very good, and even his funeral was funky. I watched his funeral. It was crazy. They had performers. He wanted it that way, I think. So The Blackening is this insane movie about a group of friends. I think they're all black except one, if I'm remembering the trailer. They go like to a cabin or away for a weekend, like an Airbnb thing. It doesn't look like a cabin in the movie, but whatever. And they find this game, and it's called The Blackening, and it is an obviously racist board game, which is already bizarre, right? So they find this game. It's a racist board game. Ardent, Papa's got a brand new bag. They find this racist board game. Then they find it in the basement, and I think they get trapped in the basement, and then they're forced to play it. JC is here. Hi, hi, hi. What is that little emoji you're saying? I don't know what it is. Looks like Pac-Man in a yellow hat. Can't. Usually when you put your cursor over it does something, but it's not doing anything. Sif Sifa, how is it okay for racist movies like that to still be made? Shake my head. No, well, it's not. The movie's not racist. Let me explain the whole thing because it's very complicated. It's a black director, and so it's a racist game that the characters are then forced to play, and then they're slowly being killed one by one by this mysterious killer whose thematic look looks like something in the game. It's a weird movie, and then it's billed as a comedy horror, but there wasn't one funny thing in the trailer. I thought I just was very confused. Sif Sifa, it's a dab emoji, a dab. So like that, is that dab or is that something else? I don't know. Dabbing emoji. Okay, I'm too much of a boomer to understand what that even means. JC, smiley face dabbing. You remember dabbing? It was a 2017. That's this thing? Isn't it this thing? That's the dabbing? Oh, yeah, okay, so I see his little arms now. So that is the dabbing. Or it's like this. So they play the game, and then one by one they're being murdered, and then they have to, I don't know, win the game and overcome the killer. It's so stupid to me. Sif Sifa, oh no, he's done it, everyone. Arden, I'll watch you dab if you watch me whip and nene. I vaguely remember those terms. Are you going to ask me to plank? I don't really want to plank. There's not enough room in this room for that. Um, Ardent, clip it. Damn it. I have to stop doing things. I should have at least gotten a donation for doing that. So it's supposed to be a comedy, but it does not look like a comedy. Like, that's one of the big problems with Hollywood, I think. Man, their comedies are terrible, 99%. No Hard Feelings does look funny. The Machine looks very funny. Everything else just about not very funny at all. And you don't feel like comedies. Like, comedies are big. They have like a big sip. Is whip and nay a euphemism? No, it's like another one of those trends like dabbing. I forget. I think it's a dance move. So, and then they were talking about it in Variety the other day, and I just thought, they're talking about this movie like they're gonna make another one. And I guess it was done on a low budget and then got a big release, but it just seemed like, what the hell is this movie? The trailer didn't look funny at all. To me, like, if you have a funny movie, even if it's a horror funny thing, like Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters is horror comedy. Now, it's more comedy than horror, but those are the two elements, essentially. And it's a very funny trailer. The whole movie's funny. Like, if you're going to do funny horror, the thing has to be funny, or scary, or both. At SIF, nah, it was another blink and miss it dance fad. Okay, yeah, it was a dance fad. So I don't know why they're talking about this movie at all. Ardent, kind of a low rent Macarena. Yeah, I'm old. Not like Do the Hustle old, but still. I remember the Hustle. When I was in grade school, they made us do the Hustle for one of my classes. It wasn't quite a gym class. We didn't have gym class in grammar school. I think it was grammar school. I think we had some sort of music class, and the music teacher taught us the Hustle. Part of it is you have to do a move where you swing your hips out and bump your butt against your dance partner. Do the Hustle. That is how I learned so many things when I was in school. Sifa, I missed the entire first 20 years of the internet and refused to catch up out of principle. The first 20 years is amazing. You missed the best part of the internet. Oh my God. Let me digress for a moment here. The first 20 years of the internet, holy F, it was fantastic. Now, I'll just do a brief rundown for you. So, I discovered the internet when I was in college in, I guess it was 84, 85, because all the kids I went to college with were super rich. So one of them had a personal computer that still had floppy drives. But she was like, oh, there's this new thing on the internet where we could talk to people. And I didn't quite understand it because I kept asking, well, why don't you just call them on the phone? This seems slow and stupid. Because it was. And it was all dial-up. But very quickly, after I got out of college, it kind of ramped up. And the big things were message boards. And it was like everybody in the mainstream media and mainstream institutions said, oh, the internet, that's just BS. That's nothing. But people in the know who were computer nerds, they were all using it. And so it was only people who were savvy enough to even understand the internet. Because if you ask somebody else, when email was first coming around, they just didn't understand what the hell it was. Ardent, Civ Fair, I am X days successfully avoiding Cardi B's WAP. Daniel Scanlon has entered the chat. Hello. Hamster dance? I don't know how to do that. What is the hamster dance? Ardent, chat rooms were huge when I was in college. Yes, chat rooms were a thing. And it was very low key, very slow, but there were no pictures. If you had any pictures, man, your internet just ground to a halt while it tried to load the picture. That's where all the data, took up all the space. But for words and stuff, for chatting with people and sending messages, it was great. Sif Sifa, I had my rich friend pirate discographies for me, then hop straight into getting banned from Facebook. The old internet was great for discovering things that nobody else was discovering at the time. So, for instance, buying and selling comics on the early days of the internet was fantastic because there was very limited people doing it. So you could get all these crazy deals, and nobody else, and you'd show up with the comics, and somebody would go, "Where the hell did you get that?" "Oh, I got it on the internet." "Oh, I'm not into that." Daniel, you don't remember the hamster dance from the early days of the internet? I don't remember it. No. That wasn't the dramatic hamster that turned around. Dun, dun, dun. Ardent, Terry Hatcher crashed my hard drive a few times. Ha! I'd like to crash her hard drive. You know what I mean? I'll tell you what was better too on the old internet dating, because only the women that were savvy enough to start using the internet before most people did were on it. So they tended to have a little bit of money because at least they had a computer, and that cost some money. They tended to be more professional, and they weren't just any rando. Now every rando's on every dating site, and they're a nightmare. They're an absolute nightmare. But during the early days of the internet, it was awesome. I was dating like crazy when internet dating first started. Oh, it was great. I was meeting so many women. Daniel, it was a page of dancing hamster gifs with background music. Oh, okay. So that was like the Simpsons when Homer finds the dancing Jesus page. Oh, okay. I think I kind of know what you mean. Daniel, there were no women on the internet. It was all lies. Well, on the dating sites there were. Just on the dating sites. But it was limited. So it was limited women, but it was also very limited guys too, because you had to be one of the new people who was into the internet. You had to be into the internet. Like, you couldn't just be it's not like now. Like, everybody has internet now. But back then, only people who were into the internet had it. So only certain people had email. You couldn't would try to send. I asked the producer, "Can I email you a script one time?" Because he wanted it like overnight. And he says, "I don't have email." And I had to physically mail it to him. There were just people. I was working. This was back in the 90s, the early 90s. I was working as a temp, and they thought I was like an IT genius because I could use email, because people in the office just didn't use it on a regular basis. People didn't use PCs on a regular basis. They were just getting, these are like middle-aged people just getting spun up. It was a wild time. Carter, I was dating so many women. Okay, Tony, no need to flex on us. Jeez. I mean, that was my heyday. Right in that era. It was like early 90s. I'm in my early to mid 30s. I had a good run. And then it all went to hell. And now, forget it. Now it's like a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare now. There's so many people on it. No one, everybody ghosts everybody else. There's just too many choices. There's just too many people. Everybody's assuming you'll get ghost. No one can talk to anybody. It's the worst now. But back then, if you emailed somebody, they felt obligated. Oh, I have to answer my email. Like, now, nobody answers their email. Email's not even barely a thing. Ardent, LOL. Anyhow, getting back to movies, the important stuff of life. Number 10 is The Boogeyman, based on that Stephen King short story, 2.5 million. This is going out of theaters. It's another low budget thing. 56 million, probably made money. Again, this is another thing. You can make $1 million of these low budget horror movies. You make something like this for 20 million, ka-ching. It's money in the bank. Past Lives, I still don't know what this movie is, but they're putting it in more theaters. It's an art house movie, I know that. 3.5 million, that's probably not money. Fast X, still in theaters. Going out. 696 million. Maybe that's money. I don't know. This movie was very expensive, but probably made money. Super Mario Brothers, of course. The Juggernaut at $1.3 billion. $360,000. I think it's time for that to go. About My Father. Yeah, this movie did not do well. It's on its way out. 13 million worldwide. That had to be a loss. Had to be a loss. Robert De Niro's in it, man. Oofa. That does not help his box office. And unfortunately for the stand-up comic who this whole movie, this was his movie, man. He's going right back to stand-up, I think. You Hurt My Feelings. This movie, this is the Julia Louis-Dreyfus thing. Ouch, 4.7 million. Probably not money either, for same reasons. The Roundup, No Way Out. What the hell is that? This is the fat martial artist movie. This could be good. I mean, it did 68 million worldwide. The trailer looked kind of cool. Ardent, Fast X should have followed Jason X and sent the guys to space. Jason X is a very funny movie. My favorite part of Jason X, and I watched most of it, is the one where they go to the holodeck, and then it's a holodeck of the camp. So it's like it gets super meta, right? So he's on the holodeck, and then he's meeting the characters from a summer camp where he gets to murder people. It's just bizarre. And then he starts murdering them, but like they're holograms. Sif Sifa, absolutely, Ardent. Fast X, Fast and Furious, in space. It's about family. In space. They're on starships. That actually would be a pretty good pitch. Hear me out. You pitch it, because this is why Hollywood likes their pitches. When Die Hard was big, everything was Die Hard in a blank, right? So I remember this one. I was like, what do you... I talked to this producer. I'm like, what do you guys want? He goes, I'm working on this new movie now. It's Die Hard in a ski lodge. And I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, it's basically Die Hard. It's the same kind of movie, except it's set in a ski lodge. No one's done a ski lodge yet. And that's what they wanted. So they wanted Die Hard in this, and Die Hard on a boat, Die Hard on a train, Die Hard on this. So Fast X in space would be a solid pitch in Hollywood, I think. Ardent. Although a Fast and Furious versus Baby Driver versus the Transporter film would be cool. They basically have the Transporter in the Fast X movies. Or Fast and Furious movies. Baby Driver... Possibly. They could throw him in. At this point, everybody in Hollywood's in the Fast movies, and I think they're mercifully going to end them soon. I think they're going to do a final movie, but of course it's in 2 parts. That's their new thing now. Oh, Tom Cruise did 2 parts, and everybody's seeing it. No, because it's Tom Cruise, and he's not an a-hole to his audience. Sif Sifa, if you can't make friends with ETs, can you even family? What else? Oh, and Rêve Paris, some new movie. Sif Sifa, mumble growls. Ohana means family. I don't know what this movie is. It's not doing very well. 119,000 internationally? Ouch. It's got to be a foreign movie. It's only in 2 theaters, though. Ardent. Nice. So, yeah, that's the box office for the weekend. Very, very interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of chatter this week on the various YouTube movie and nerd channels about the box office. Mostly, I think they'll be trashing The Flash. but everybody's saying it's absolute trash. So I wouldn't go see it now. I don't want to support Ezra Miller anyway, but initially I thought maybe it'll be okay, but yeah, I don't want to support Ezra Miller. It's too much. If anybody should be fired, it should be Ezra Miller. Why does Johnny Depp get fired and not Ezra Miller? That's what I don't understand. Like, Johnny Depp wasn't convicted of anything, and now he's been essentially completely cleared, and yet they fired him. Ezra Miller runs amok, and they don't fire him. It's not right. Arnott, title means remember Paris. Ah, probably France. French, probably crap. Le crap to you. Yeah, I don't like French movies in general. They have a weird sense of cinema, and I used to have to watch French movies in my film aesthetics class in college, and I hated them all. I had to sit through Jules and Jim. Oh, brutal movie. Brutal movie. And then it ends, spoilers, with Jules and Jim dying, and I was the only one in the theater applauding. I was like, yeah, all right. Because I hated the movie so much. It was so boring. It was so boring. And French. Ugh. Oh, boy. I'm trying to think of a French movie I liked. I guess I would probably like the... what was that movie? Oh, I can't think of the name. Oh, gosh. It's the one with Natalie Portman as a kid. What the hell is that called? Where she's assisting the assassin. The something. Not the executioner, not the eliminator, something like that. Sif Sifa. Ezra was most likely a child victim of Hollywood, so they need to keep him quiet and happy. Possibly. But I mean, they probably have tons of... A Leon, that's it, Sif Sifa says. Ardit, The Flash is an Elseworlds rejected comic script from the looks of things. Progressive diversity swap Superman, 2 Flashes. Yeah, that's... Daniel, Professional, that's it, The Professional. Thank you. Ardit, The Professional was Jean Reno. Yeah. Yeah, that looked good. And he's French, right? I think he's French. Other than that, I can't think of a good French movie. I'm sure there are, but... Ardent, Leon the Professional, same movie. Oh, okay. It was called Leon the Professional? Or Leon, and then the Professional. Yeah, everybody raves about that movie, so I assume it's decent or very watchable at least. But about the Ezra being a victim, I mean, that's possible. You know, but I don't think it excuses Ardent, La Femme Nikita. Oh, okay. Is that Bridget Fonda movie? When she was super hot? Daniel, they changed the name of at one point. Oh, okay. Yeah, Ezra might be a victim, but I don't know. That kind of doesn't excuse it. And it kind of doesn't excuse the studio. Because I think Ezra didn't just screw up one time. He screwed up multiple times. And if you're going to have studio guys go to Ezra and say, hey, you have to stop this, you're supposed to do it early before it gets too out of hand. Especially before children are involved. They should have had, the first time he did something, they should have had a couple of suits on a plane to go visit Ezra and tell him the way of the world. And basically tell him, do not do this again. If you do this again, we're going to cut you out in a movie. We're going to sue you for breach of contract. You got a behavioral clause. They should have read him the riot act because he was really out of control in my view. But they didn't. Ardent, No Way Out is the Bridget Fonda movie based on the French original. Oh, okay. Oh, so the original was La Femme Nikita, and No Way Out was the remake in America. Yeah, Bridget Fonda was super hot back in the day. She is not hot now, but I don't know why these newspapers hunted her down and started taking pictures of her and making fun of her because she's not hot anymore. It's just so rude. It's like the woman's older. She's not acting anymore. Leave her alone. All right. Let's see what's going on in the trades. Here's Jennifer Lawrence. No hard feelings. Open soft. Good headline, Variety. For you, anyway. That's pretty funny. 15 million as the Flash cratered in its second weekend. Oh, here's another big story. Geez, so much is happening today. SAG-AFTRA leaders say talks have been extremely productive. Now, the DGA basically has a deal on the table, and it sounds like they're going to vote for it. Now it looks like the SAG guys are going to get a deal, which means the actors won't go on strike. It means the directors won't go on strike, the actors won't go on strike, and the writers are still on strike. Woof. That is not good. Sif Sifa, dude, don't tell me I'm not hot when I'm 90. There are some hot-ish 90-year-old. I mean, if anybody's still going to be hot at 90, it might be Linda Carter. Because I'll tell you, Linda Carter really held up pretty well. All the way into her 70s before she really started to show serious age. And even now, she still looks pretty damn good. And she's like, I think she's close to 80 now. It's quite amazing. Martha Stewart is not hot, though. Don't kid yourselves. That Playboy thing was so... that was gross. That was gross. That's inappropriate, I think. Because when you're in your 90s, you shouldn't be... Or, I don't know, she's in her 70s. You shouldn't be doing, like, Playboy spreads and showing your boobs. That's just not going to work. It's not going to work. There are very few women that age that are going to have great boobs. Come on. And it's going to have to be a professional job, right? Has to be. But, you know, I'll tell you, Elizabeth Hurley, maybe. Ardent. Sophia Loren was gorgeous as she aged. She really was. She was really pretty hot. Very, very late in her run. So it's mostly genes. Donna D'Errico at 55. I keep showing her on the Hollywoke Hot Take because she's super hot. She's doing OnlyFans and she looks good. She looks good. She really is working hard, though. You can tell. She's definitely had a little face work, but body-wise, she's got to be working out every day. Absolutely every day. But like Bridget Fonda and Kelly McGinnis, they went on. They're not doing movies. They're living their lives. They didn't want to keep up with it. I don't blame them. If I had money, I'd be like, nah, even fatter. So yeah, it looks like SAG, the actors and the directors are going to have the deal, and F the writers. Now, I thought all these guys, we're union, union protects union. What the actors and the directors should do is say, we'll take your deal as soon as you finish the deal with the writers. That's what they should do. If they're really for the union, they should protect the other unions and force the producers into a deal with the writers. But the writers always get screwed. They're going to get screwed, I think. And I think a lot of the studios are looking to do some AI stuff and get rid of writers. I really do. I think they're going to do this. Again, I said this before, but I'll say it again. They're going to create a situation where they bring in an AI. They get the AI to write a screenplay. And they'll get it to a certain point, and then they'll say, okay, that's almost good enough. Then they'll bring a story consultant or an editor, which will essentially be the writer, and they'll pay him less. And they'll say, here, take the screenplay that was written by the AI and fix it. And we'll pay you some flat rate, and then you could go your merry way. And then we don't have to pay royalties on the screenplay. That's what I think they're angling for. A situation where all their screenplays are now written by AI and they don't have to pay royalties forever. Sif Sifa, some modern writers could use a good AI-based shakeup. That is true. Part of it's not their fault. They're just terrible. It's the people who hired them that are really responsible because they have no sense of who to hire anymore. They're hiring people based on their race or ethnicity or their gender identity or whatever. That's even that's kind of like the worst metric to hire somebody because that doesn't mean anything in terms of writing. It means nothing. It literally means nothing. You might as well just walk around the street and find the ethnicity or gender ID, like standing on the sidewalk somewhere, and just go up to them and say, hey, you want to work in Hollywood and be a screenwriter? Because that would be just as good. It would be just as good. In fact, it might even be better. Some of those people might have better ideas if they, you just caught them at random, but it's just not going to work. So they need to hire not only writers, but they also need to hire some producers who understand writing. They needed to take a guy like William Goldman, the late great William Goldman, who was a great screenwriter, and make him like king of the screenwriters. So then producers could go to him and say, who do you think's a good screenwriter, or who do you is this a good screenplay or not? Ardent, hiring based on politics, effing stupid. Yeah, well, that's what's happened to Marvel, certainly. I mean, I just wrote yet another article for Clownfish TV, top 20 reasons you may be a comic book Marxist. I talked about some of that. And then I wrote another article that's going to come out this week probably about how the fandom has been destroyed through various machinations. Not all with politics, but politics was sort of the biggest FU to the fans. And it's just a damn mess. And movies have done the same thing. They've ruined the fan base. They've destroyed the fans. They've gone after everybody. And Hollywood is now, it's expensive to shoot in Southern California. It's expensive to shoot in California, period, thanks to Governor Newsom and the idiots who run California. So there's that. It used to be cheaper to shoot in Hollywood because they had sets and sound stages, and that's where they were. And so that's why people shot their movies in LA, because the facilities were all there. Well, now you don't need those facilities anymore, and those facilities can be built anywhere. The facility they shot The Mandalorian in was a 360-degree green screen where you can literally project, a landscape 360 degrees around the actors, move the camera anywhere you want in perspective. You can build that inside studio anywhere. You could green screen them anywhere. So what do you need to shoot in California for? Because of the great weather? You don't need the weather anymore. You can create the weather anywhere. Because you're inside a sound stage anyway, you're going to create the weather. They create the weather, by the way, in lots of different ways. And if you're shooting smaller movies, comedies, horror movies, relationship movies, whatever, you definitely don't need to be in Hollywood. There's almost no reason to be there. And in fact, back in the day, they used to shoot these B movies in like places like Romania because it was dirt cheap to shoot in those countries, because you could use extras and crew, and you could pay them a pittance compared to what you'd have to pay them in California. And you wouldn't have to use the unions half the time. So, sure, you got to deal, actors and directors, and the writers eventually get a deal. I don't know what good it'll do you. It just means things are more expensive to do in Hollywood, and you have to go outside the system in order to make a damn movie. Sif Sifa, they're only shooting NASA and ISS footage in Hollywood now. Ardent, LOL. LOL indeed. How to watch the 2023 BET Awards online. Oh, thank God you're telling me how to watch things, Variety. Go F yourselves. Mr. Beast says he turned down an invitation to join the Titanic submersible voyage. Seems like a solid turn down. Probably a good idea. John Goodman lost a ton of weight and he looks weird. And he's got a bunch of projects coming out. Well, at least he'll live longer to spend all his money. Ardent. I'm not sure how to say that. Professor Commercials. What? Professor Commercials? Oh, Pfizer commercials. Oh, okay. Why did you say Pfizer commercials? Oh, BET? Okay. Maybe. I don't know if they were a sponsor of Pfizer or not. Can I say Pfizer in the chat? Can I even say Pfizer on YouTube? I don't even know. We're not talking about a certain medical condition, YouTube, so. I guess that's it. Pixar's Elemental knocks down The Flash in international box office charts. All right, moving on to Hollywood Reporter. More on box office. VFX Pro, who dove to Titanic with James Cameron, discusses sub design and safety protocols following Titan tragedy. Weirdly, for the first time, Hollywood famous guys actually know more than the people who made this sub, apparently, because Cameron knew what he was talking about. So, for once, you should have listened to Hollywood. Ardent, Goodman looks like he finally joined the Hollywood inner circle. He looks soulless. I guess. He just looks weird. I mean, Goodman was like the guy in Hollywood for a short time. Remember where they were putting him in everything? Put him in King Ralph? He had quite a run. I don't know why, again, I don't know why these guys just don't retire. I'd retire. Sif Sifa, funny how fast the switch can be noticed. Oh, you mean on Goodman? I guess. I don't know. He just seems like he's just there. Rocky Horror creator Richard O'Brien reveals gender struggles. I have so much girl in me. Uh-oh. All right. Riff Raff is going to, I don't know, change sides, I guess. He's 81? Are you just trying to talk about this stuff so they'll write another article on you? Dude, you're 81. I mean, Rocky Horror is genius, don't get me wrong, but and Rocky Horror wasn't exactly the straightest movie ever made. I don't know why these people talk sometimes. I really don't. Patricia Arquette is in some TV show, which is funny because she was all over the internet trashing Trump and Republicans for a while, and then suddenly she got a show, and I just thought, I wonder if that was a reward. Magnum PI to end on NBC after 5 seasons this was. I don't know anybody who watched a reboot of Magnum PI, but whatever. Yeah. Most of this is just the same kind of stuff. Stuff on Secret Invasion. God, they're pushing Secret Invasion like really hard. A lot of articles about Secret Invasion. No interest. Zero interest. It looks terrible to me. It's a kind of show that it won't, I think it won't work because they're already screwed up the MCU. And it's just, they've already screwed up. You have to have a good functional universe for a story like Secret Invasion to work. And they just don't. They're living in their fantasy woke land, and they have been for a few years now. They've undermined everything about reality. and now they're going to do a show that's dependent upon the reality being good. It's just not going to work. Ardent, I saw a female Higgins and I was out. There's a female Higgins? That's so stupid. Ugh, that's brutal. I didn't know there was a female Higgins. That's not good. Not good. You're not going to beat Tom Selleck's Magnum P.I. He doesn't even have a mustache. How could you do Magnum P.I. without a mustache? You ought to be ashamed, NBC. It's taking another IP. Oh, it's an IP we own. Let's make another version of it. Blah. Blah. Oh, AMS 914 is here. Welcome. Marvel shows are written by the writers that I've seen picketing. I got Special Olympics vibes when I drove by the Sony lot. Well, somebody's out in LA. Oh, you poor man. You poor man or woman. I don't know if you're a man or woman. Poor AMS. You're living in LA? Ugh. So awful. I lived in LA. I hated every minute of it. Yeah, the biggest thing to me about the picketing was when I saw the videos and they were picketing past the homeless people living on the street, unironically. I need more money. I need more. Oh, get out of my way, you bum. I need more money. They didn't say that, but that was the vibe I got. Ardent, it's ironic how Marvel's cinematic universe has many continuity issues and the old comics universe did. Yeah. To me, it's easier to fix the ones in the live action one. There's not that much information. Like the comics, you can almost understand. There were hundreds of comics. You had to keep track of them all. You had different writing teams and creative teams, and you had dozens of editors. I mean, it was tough to keep track of that stuff. And for the most part, they did in the 70s into the 80s. But Sif Sifa all-female role swaps now required to have a great mustache by law. AMS, haven't quite yet. AMS, I'm considering non-binary for career purposes. Well, that is part of the plot for Hollywoke another novel. Funny enough, you say that. I don't think I could pull it off, but I talk too much, first off, but it's doable. I mean, what are they going to say to you? That was the fun part of writing Hollywoke Hot Take. One of the characters is Sif Sifa. Do it at AMS. How are they going to disprove it? Exactly. That was part of the plot. So part of the plot is his girlfriend works for, one of the characters' girlfriends works for like a variety, and she needs a scoop, so she wants to out her boyfriend as non-binary, and he doesn't want to go along with it, but she does it anyway because she needs the career boost. And he uses it because he's in a fight with another executive at the studio, and instantly people start treating him differently and better. And it gives him this like armor that allows him to walk, to do stuff during the course of the book. Ardent. Yeah, the Star Wars Extended Universe novels had some continuity issues because of Soze. AMS, exactly. You just have to paint your thumbnail black. Because of size. Ardent, correct himself. Yes. I mean, there's just a lot of material there. But there's not that much material in the MCU. You couldn't make it work. Jesus. These people make mistakes all the time. They're just basic mistakes. The comic book guys back in the day, it wouldn't even come... If they were only publishing comics, like if you only published enough comics to do the stories in the movies and TV shows, you wouldn't have nearly as many comics. There'd be like, I don't know, a comic a month maybe for a few years. And it would be easy to keep that continuity if anybody cared. But that's part of the problem. If somebody has to care, number one, and then somebody has to go to a set or go to a meeting with these producers and directors and creative people who are fighting you every inch of the way to do it their way, and convince them, no, you had to do it the way the comic made it, or you had to do it this way because we have already established this. But like, for instance, one of the criticisms already at Secret Invasion is like, you know, Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury, comes back to Earth, and he's like super social justice warrior now, which wasn't his character in the movies, right? He wasn't that way at all. He was very sort of pragmatic individual. Um, so, but you could see here, it feels like Hollywood Reporter's trying to prop him up with some articles. It's my contention these studios probably just pay Hollywood Reporter and Variety and other publications. They just pay them in advance for articles based on their shows, and then just, you know, they put them in the pipeline so far in advance. A lot of times they can't stop them. They already paid for them, so they just let them go. But look at this. Secret Invasion star Kobe Smulders is shocked the series premiere ending didn't leak. Yeah, because nobody cares now. I think you've finally gotten to the point where nobody cares about Marvel. Really? A couple of Marvel stans maybe would have wanted it to leak, but I don't think you have the audience you had in the beginning. And then Secret Invasion stars Samuel L. Jackson and Olivia Colman on playing frenemies, that unbreakable connection. Who cares? Not gonna watch it. Not gonna watch it. That's another thing about shows like this too. It's like, before, when you watch TV, you wanted to watch it as it was coming out. Now everything's binge watched, right? So it's like a lot of people are just waiting, like, well, I'll wait to see the reviews before I decide to watch it. Then you don't have to waste your time, right? If it gets really bad reviews, you can just say, F it, I'm not watching that. After Endgame, people finally had the permission to go, I don't know if I'm going to watch any more Marvel stuff. And then they started picking and choosing, and now, you know, a lot of people, I think, are picking like, I'm done with this. You essentially had 2 flops in a row. Secret Invasion, is that really going to pull you out of the dive? I don't think so. Not everybody has Disney Plus. I'm not going to pay for Disney Plus. It'd be different if you put this stuff on ABC where everybody could see it. So it's just more fodder to try to get people to buy the subscription. Then you're going to release the Marvels in November. That ain't going to help. That's going to kill it. That's probably going to kill the MCU, I think. This isn't getting great reviews, and then you're gonna ease into the Marvels and expect that to save you during Christmas? Nah, I don't think that's happening. Deadline, otherwise known as Variety 2.0. Indiana Jones sit-downs, Amber Heard talks in the fire, photo gallery, and more. No, thank you. WGA negotiating committee scribes show resolve after 50-day mark. So you see, the actors and the DGA have deals. WGA, they're showing resolve. That sounds like they're going to stay on strike. I think they want them to stay on strike. I think they want to break. They might want to break the writers' union, or at least win one. Screw the writers. Writers always get screwed, I think, in Hollywood. I don't know what that's all about. I guess I'll read it. Awards line: 1923 breakout star Anaya Naeves says her role gives her an opportunity to share honest and real stories of indigenous people. Yeah, I'm sure that's not why she got the award. I'm sure it was popular first, and then it just so happened she's doing stories about indigenous people. Yeah, I'm sure that's just a total coincidence. I'm sure that's not why you gave her an award at all. Let's see. In the Fire, director Connor Allen and actor Luca Calvani talk working with Amber Heard. Oh, God, what a nightmare that must be. And her resilience amid Johnny Depp controversy. You have to give her credit for the incredible journey this woman has been through. What journey is that? The journey of trying to be an a-hole and pooping in a bed? What a journey. I mean, you're making her sound like a hero. AMS 1923 was phenomenal. Did you watch? I did not. I did not. That's the one with Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren, right? I think that one, right? I don't have regular TV anymore. Not so sure I'd want to give Amber Heard any credit. She seems like an awful person. She seems like the poster girl for the hot to crazy ratio. I don't know why this is even in Deadline. Sarah Ferguson being treated for breast cancer. I mean, that's terrible, but I'm not so sure why you're covering it, Deadline. I'm not so sure why that has to do with movies. She's part of the royal family. AMS. Yes. Maybe I'll check it out if I get a chance. Oh, this story. Man, so much happened today. Ardent, incredible journey from pooping in a bed to screwing around to lying and acting in court. It's an incredible journey, yes. AMS, Amber Heard completely lied. I don't understand that fluff piece. She's still got a name. That's why. Like, they treat these people as commodities, I think. And she still has a name. Now, it's not an A-lister name, but B-lister. People know who she is. Same thing with Ezra Miller, right? They're probably done with him. They're probably going to demote him to the B or C list, but they'll still use him because his name, people know who he is. AMS, and they act like Depp is disgraced, but for what? Being the victim of a fake allegation? Absolutely nuts. I agree. I think it's completely insane that Ezra Miller got to keep his job and Johnny Depp did not. I hope Johnny Depp sues them for tens of millions of dollars, and he should get it. Like, if anybody who could get, say, $500 million from the studio, it would be Johnny Depp, and he deserves every penny, even though he doesn't need the money. Ardent, yeah, they are assets. Exactly. The actors are assets, and they're worth something. Their name is worth something. You got to figure, like, let's say you have a low-budget movie, and again, they're not really making them, so, but maybe they're headed back to that. But you got a movie that cost, I don't know, $5 million. You know, like Rust was a movie like that. The Alec Baldwin thing where he shot that woman. That was the kind of movie. Alec Baldwin's the only real name in the movie. That's why he's in it. He's at that sort of level. He's at the end of his career. People would have gone and seen it because Alec was in it. Or at least when you talked about the movie and said, oh, it stars Alec Baldwin, you could say, oh, well, I've heard of Alec Baldwin. So it validates the movie in your mind because there's someone in it you heard of. So like Kevin Spacey was in a movie. He's on trial or in court again for some allegation, I think in the UK. But between he got off on the first court, I guess that was in New York, and between that and then going to the UK, he was in another movie with, I think, Rosanna Arquette, where he plays like a crazy hitman or something. And again, like, his name, even though it was a low budget thing, but his name would elevate it, and people would go, well, I've heard of Kevin Spacey, it must be a real movie. Ardent, one of the guys from Supernatural was in Rust as well. Oh, okay. I don't really know those guys, but I mean, I'm sure the other actors were in stuff. Probably like Supernatural, they were TV actors. But like Hollywood also divides TV actors and movie actors at a different scale. So like me and a friend, we were trying to get funding for a movie. And at the time, this was a few years ago, this is before Mickey Rourke came back into prominence, because it was before The Wrestler dropped. So we had Mickey Rourke in it. We wanted him because he hadn't been working. And then another person we picked was Angeline Lilly, before she had gotten into Marvel Universe and before she had done the Hobbit movies, right? She had come off of Lost, and she was very famous from Lost, but she didn't really have a big movie under her belt. And so when we presented our proposal and the actors we wanted, and we mentioned Angeline Lilly, the distributor said she's not a good pick. And we said, why? She was in Lost. It was like the biggest show around that time. It had just ended. He said, because she's a TV actor and she's not considered box office for the distribution purposes. So people with box office, as they say, have been in movies. They've been in hit movies. And even if they've been in a bunch of terrible movies and one hit movie, it doesn't matter. They know that people know who they are. And so they make calculations based on how much money the movie will bring in. So they will make a calculation based on the level of stardom in the previous box office or whatever. So a guy like Alec Baldwin, are they going to make $400 million on Rust? No. Now it's in a different category. But let's say he hadn't shot and killed a person. So maybe that movie cost you, I don't know, $20 million, because Alec was kind of producing it himself along with some other guys. And then they put it out. They'll calculate, the distributor will calculate, we think we can make, I don't know, $50 million on it. So we're going to buy it from the producers for X amount of dollars and then go make the money. AMS, Tony, I'm 31 and still hitting the pavement when it comes to networking. How did you even get that far? Can you give me your brief background really quickly? It sounds better than it actually is. So when I say me and a friend tried to put together a deal and get funding, first off, we didn't get the funding. And it was a very shoestring budget. Like, I had a friend who had budgeted a couple of things for me in the past, and he had this software, and so we asked him to budget the movie for us, and he did the best he could, and we had a budget. It was in the ballpark of what we needed, we thought, and then we took advantage of like Canadian tax credits in our calculation, and then we went up to Canada, where my acting friend had met some of the distributors while he was promoting his movie at film festivals, and we tried to get the distributor on board with a letter of intent that we could show to investors that, we have distribution in place in Canada if you give us the money for this movie, and we believe we could shoot it. I think at the time we believed we could shoot it for like $5.4 million, and we would have gotten something like half back in tax credits from Canada, because they're so desperate at the time, they were so desperate for Hollywood to shoot movies there. And there was an actor strike at that time. So our plan was to use Canadian actors for the movie, and then try to get distribution in America, because there was nothing coming out. They were jammed up because of the strike for a while. So it was kind of a good plan, but it didn't come together. But my background is Ardent. Gonna go to sleep. Sorry, Sif. See you next week, Tony. See you, bro. Thanks for stopping by. Sif Sifa, I have given up and am now drinking coffee. Night, bro. But my background, I studied screenwriting in college, and always wanted to work in movies, and I tried to write screenplays and tried to sell them, and I've got a million stories of not selling screenplays, and eventually I got a couple of credits under my belt, but it's not that big. AMS, got it. I have scripts on hosting sites that rank in the top 10 and 5%. Also many semi-finalist awards. Hopefully that pads the portfolio, but sometimes feels like you need to be number one or it's moot. Yeah, but like screenwriters, they don't care, right? Nobody in Hollywood cares about, look at what's happening now. The actors have a deal, and the directors have a deal, and the writers are continuing their strike. That shows you how much they care. They hire writers for no reason. There were even before everything went woke, they would hire writers like this. Hey, we need some guy to write a an episode of this TV show. Is anybody know any writers? Hey, you working at the front desk answering our phones. I heard you were a writer. Yeah, I am a writer. I'm trying to break in, sir. Oh, great. Here, write us a screenplay, and we'll pay you. And they pay you a pittance, and that's how you get in. But I know guys who struggle to work in Hollywood, and they live there. And they get some work, but it's terrible. It's all terrible. Everything, they're not working on anything good. They're all working on crap. And that's the way the industry is. It just cranks out crap all the time. Sif-Sifa. Go to film college and have them do your scripts for cheap. Yeah, you can do that too. AMS, sounds about right. I'm better off doing Blow with the right people. Ha ha ha. You absolutely are. Don't do Blow, by the way. I had a friend who was a comedian in New York, and he did Blow with all sorts of famous comedians, and that's how he got his, he moved up a little bit that way. Sif-Sifa, AMS at Sif-Sifa, film grad already, boss. Ha ha ha. Thanks. Yeah, it's all about connections. It's all about connections. I don't know if I could tell this story. I heard it secondhand, but what I heard or read about, I can't remember, but the story, I can't remember where I read all this. So the story was that the captain of the Voyager show, Kate Mulgrew, right? She ended up being the captain on the show. But the producers had lined up another actress, and I think they even shot the first pilot with her. But Mulgrew, I guess, was dating or was the girlfriend or wife of one of the producers, and then ended up in the role. That's what I heard. It's all rumor. It's all my opinion. I'll just state right out. So, that's the kind of stuff that happens in Hollywood. Yeah. Sif-Sifa, no, I mean they'll act and film for you. Yeah, they totally would. Hollywood, it's all about, again, who you know. If you can get a movie made and it's good and you can sell it and then it becomes a hit, well, you can kind of write your own ticket. So it's this weird sort of system where, you have to be a bankable person in the film industry. And the only way you get bankable is having credits, and having credits that are good, at least perception-wise, to the people who make movies. So if you're a screenwriter, I have a few screenwriting credits. It's opened a few doors for me, but the studio wouldn't approve me as a screenwriter. Even on my own project, I was trying to, we're trying to develop, as they say, a screenplay based on one of my comic books, Superfrat, or my web comic, Superfrat. And we were in discussions with people for years. And I said, let me write the screenplay. I created the damn comic. And I write screenplays. And they were like, yeah, but you're not an approved studio screenwriter. And so they kept bringing in other guys to give pitches, and the pitches were awful, in my view. And they would also downplay certain aspects that the producers we were talking to didn't like. So one producer apparently didn't like fraternities. And this is a story I heard. Again, it's all a story. I don't know if it's true. So the story I heard was the producer didn't like fraternities, so he told his two comedy screenwriters to downplay the fraternity for a screenplay called Superfrat, where the entire concept was a superpowered fraternity. So the pitch they had, literally, characters didn't have a fraternity, but they were in college and it was similar. And it was so bad that at some point, one of the people we were working with was pitching my own ideas back to me, and I was going out of my mind. I was like, nobody read the comic, nobody knew what to do. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare to work in Hollywood. William Goldman, the late great William Goldman, the king of all screenwriters, once said, "Screenwriting is not an art. It's a terrible, it's awful, and don't do it." And he had a point. Like, if you become a director and then write your own screenplays, you're in a much better position. Certainly, if you're a producer, you can do whatever the hell you want. If you're bringing in the money, it's just terrible. The whole system is terrible. And nobody in Hollywood, I think, gives a damn about writers, even if you have a good idea. And Superfat was a pitch that for a while, man, everybody loved the pitch. It's Animal House meets the Justice League. And people go, oh, yes, we love that pitch. Now you couldn't even do it because everybody's so woke and beautiful and stupid. Sif Sifa, OFFS, not like the guy who literally wrote the source material could adapt it. Exactly. And I have a screenplay for it. That was perfectly fine first draft. I mean, I'd tweak it now, but they'd never make it. Oh, it's totally politically... It wasn't even that politically incorrect, really, when I wrote it, but now I would really... Oh, I would really love to go back and really make it politically incorrect and do a send-up of all the woke morons on campus. AMS, I had a 2-week job where I was going to write a revenge caper for the B unit director on the Avatar movies. Ooh. Was going to be the first movie... Was going to be his first movies. Of course, it disappeared before we got started. Here, I'll tell you my heartbreaking screenwriting story, if you got a minute. AMS. This was before Shiru phase. Cool concept. Woman who is sex trafficked gets out and decides to kill everyone that bought her. Ooh, cool B movie idea. I like that pitch. That would be good. Maybe if Sound of Freedom does really well, you could try to push that. I doubt it will do real well. I don't know. I think it'll do good, but I don't think it'll do super well. Anyhow, so I had this agent for a while, and he pitched to Aaron Spelling a new TV show idea. I'm really dating myself here. This is like early 90s, and or before even. So he pitches this TV show idea to Aaron Spelling, and Aaron Spelling likes it. So he gets me to write it because he likes me and he thinks I'm funny. So I write the show Bible, and I write the first episode, and I write the second episode, and he's sending it to Aaron, and they're going back and forth. And Aaron liked it enough that my agent was planning to move his entire family out to LA and produce the damn thing, and he was going to bring me out as a writer on the show, probably the head writer. And so he had a meeting with Aaron Spelling's people. And then in the middle of the meeting, they were like, well, we have some good news and some bad news. The good news is Aaron looked at your script and he says it's exactly like something he would normally produce. And Aaron Spelling had produced, at that time, this was like after, Love Boat and Fantasy Island, those kinds of shows. So it was kind of like those shows, but it was different. So his people are like, oh yeah, this is exactly what Aaron normally produces. And then they said, but unfortunately, he wants to get away from that. And he's going with a completely different concept. And we're going to go with a different show. It's called Beverly Hills 90210. And that's why I hate Beverly Hills 90210. Because that's the show that stole my spot in the show in Hollywood. Like if they had gone with my show, I would be out in Hollywood. I'd be rich, hopefully, or I'd be dead. Maybe I'd be dead from too much coke or something, or but that was my near miss. So 90210 stole from me, damn it. But no, that happens a million times. That's Hollywood. You get all the way up to the door, and then you just go, sorry. AMS, wow, what a story. Yeah, there's a million of them like it, though. I know plenty of people who had similar stories where they came close to something. Oh, my God, I got a meeting with this guy, and it's going to be amazing. And then nothing happened. Speaking of something that happened, this is a terrible story. I can't believe finally, this story has an ending, but it's terrible. Julian Sands, the Warlock, the actor Julian Sands, who played the Warlock, back in January, went on a hike in the middle of winter and disappeared, never came back. And he's 65. And he went up to the mountains. He went to this Mount Baldy, and now they found human remains in the area. They may have found his body. That's crazy. Sif Sifa, I hate Beverly Hills 90210 because it was balls, but you have a better reason. Yes, I do. AMS, definitely Hollywood, Walter Hill. If I had died in a plane crash in the 80s, I'd be a legend. Yeah, I don't know. Knowing myself back then, if I had gone out into Hollywood, it would have messed me up. I know it would have messed me up. I would have been caught up in so much stuff. They would have had me. So in some respects, I'm glad I never stayed out there and didn't make it, because everything just seems so whacked out now. I heard another story. I'm telling Hollywood stories tonight. So, oh God, it's almost 11. All right, I got to tell this one quick. So, this is a story I heard while I was out there, living out there. And I don't know how true it is, but my friend who heard it from somebody else told me this story. So there was this producer, I think he worked for Disney, like in the 90s. And he was super successful. And he had tons of money. And he had a mansion, the whole deal. But he could never find a wife. And he was moderately religious. He was Jewish. And he had tried everything to find a wife. He had tried matchmaking services. You know, this is a guy with tons of money. So the matchmaker must have been, you know, he was probably paying $20,000 to the matchmakers to try to find himself a wife. And maybe I think this is probably before the age of the internet dating hit. But he's trying everything. He cannot find a wife. And he puts all his affairs in order one day, gets everything ready, goes into his office in his mansion, and commits seppuku, the samurai suicide. Because he had read about it, and I guess he thought it was cool. So he actually did it with the sword, where the samurai stabs himself and then cuts and bleeds out. And so the story is he killed himself in his office and committed seppuku because he could not find love, which I thought was so sad. But it's illustrative of Hollywood, because it was like, it doesn't matter how much money you have. If you're miserable, you're miserable. And, you know, he just was sad. So sad he couldn't find a wife. He just called it a day. Sif Sifa, maybe there was something he had tried. Find Jesus. I don't know. I don't know if Jesus would have helped him. I think he needed... who knows, though? You know, a guy with that much money, he can't just marry a waitress. So it would have been tough to find a woman who was sort of at his stage and maybe, you know, not too young. Look at Kevin Costner. Kevin Costner's wife, apparently met her when she was 18 and smoking hot. Now she's 37 and divorcing him for God knows how much money. Because Kevin Costner is loaded. And now he's going through the divorce of all divorces. Why he married an 18-year-old and didn't give her a prenup, I don't know. And when you're at that level, you have to have a prenup, like an ironclad prenup. But I don't know. AMS, the Hollywood people I'm most envious are important enough that they can relocate and live elsewhere. That's the dream. Yeah. Yeah, and some of them did it. Michael J. Fox did it for a while. I remember he moved to New York to do his sitcom at the time, the one where he plays like the mayor's assistant or something. And that was like a big news story at the time. It was like, yeah, I don't want to live in Hollywood. I'm going to move to New York. But even that, I mean, he's still in New York. But at the time, it wasn't as bad as it is now. So it wasn't too bad. But yeah, that's what a lot of guys do. But even that kind of hurts your career because you're not there. And plenty of Hollywood guys are like, oh, you gotta come in town, and then we gotta have lunch and have meetings, blah blah blah. The meetings. With the meetings. Makes me want to commit seppuku when I think about the meetings I had. Sif Sifa, no, but Jesus Man is more marriageable than Small Hat. I don't know about that. I mean, plenty of people I think out there, but who knows what his deal was. Again, he was so rich. It's hard to marry someone outside of your richness. I saw a really interesting documentary, which I recommend if you're interested in this sort of paradigm, but it was made by one of the DuPont kids, and the DuPonts are insanely rich, and he is like, I don't know, the great-great-grandson of the original DuPont. AMS, that was a weird comment. So the DuPont kid made a documentary about how weird it is to be rich and how he and his compatriots, who were all heirs, they were all like mega millionaire heirs. AMS, especially if he calls himself Jesus Man. I think Sif Sifa is trying to avoid the YouTube algorithm. So the documentary was about how that having all that money isolated you because you couldn't date out of your sphere. You had to date within the rich sphere because otherwise everybody would just tell you, oh, she's just dating you for your money, or he's just dating you for your money. And there is a danger in that. I knew a producer, I don't know how true this story is either, but he told me in his building there lived an actual Nigerian princess. And like her parents both owned diamond mines, and she was worth like tens of millions of dollars, and she lived in New York, and both her parents died for unrelated, I don't know, reasons. So she was just worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. And she lived in New York, and she lived this high life, and a guy moved into her building who appeared to be very rich, and he drove a Lamborghini, and they started dating, and at some point she gave him like, I don't know, $2 or $3 million for some venture he was working on, and as soon as she gave him the money, he disappeared. And when she looked into it, she found out he was renting the Lamborghini, he was watching somebody's like apartment in the same building, and it was all a scam just to get at her money. And he had spent like a year or two working her just to get at her, just to date her, just to steal her money. And that's the kind of effort you can imagine con artists would put in if you're rich enough. So being rich does isolate you. Being famous isolates you. And, you can't have normal conversations with people, and there are all these other people coming at you constantly. When I was living in LA, I went to this bar, and Steve Buscemi was there. Now, he wasn't like as famous as he is now, but he was like indie movie famous. So everybody kind of knew who he was. And he came into the bar, and my friend was like, oh, let's go meet Steve Buscemi. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm a fan. So we went over there, and we're trying to meet him, but like everybody in the bar came at him. And they were like, total like, oh, Steve, I love you, Steve. And like, you kind of couldn't get near him and have a normal conversation. You were kind of competing with these people who were all over his D, if you know what I mean. And I could understand how that could turn into, and like, I didn't really even want to bother the guy. I just wanted to go over and say hi to him and say, hey, I'm a big fan of your movies, great stuff. Like, these people were just all over him. And I can only imagine what it's like for him now. He can't go out in public. Sif Sifa, rich people problems are because they often think all problems can just be moneyed away. That is true. But to some extent, they can't not spend money, right? So, like, if you're super rich, and especially if you're famous, and Howard Stern talked about this, He said he was at a poolside somewhere at some fancy hotel, and he said the guy brought him a sandwich, and he tipped him an extra $20, like an extra $20. And he thought to himself, that's pretty good for a sandwich, right? I gave the guy an extra 20 just for bringing me a sandwich. And he said, I could tell. He looked at me like that wasn't enough money. So there's this expectations like, oh, you only tipped me at 20? You could certainly afford to give me $100, Howard, or $200. There's kind of that going on too. AMS. A lot of these Hollywood guys were frankly abysmal when it came to women, I think, which explains why they get taken so easily. They finally get attention but don't recognize their own value. Yeah, I think that's very true. A lot of guys, they're working so hard just to get in the industry, and they don't understand their own value at all. A lot of comic book guys got taken advantage of while like the whole comic book movie craze was happening. I was hearing stories about that, like big name comic book guys who signed terrible deals even with the comic book companies, and just basically gave away the farm and had to do all this work, and they didn't really make out too well. And it's a shame, but there's lots of, you have to really, when you get in there, you have to turn down most of the offers because they're terrible. I had a producer offer me, I think for one of my comics, $10,000 buyout. And that might sound like a lot of money, but not when you worked on something for years. And then it really wasn't like, oh, here's your stack of money. It was, I would get $10,000 once the movie got made. So it was it was a promise of $10,000 way down the line, if that promise came to be at all. And that was so little money. If he decided not to pay me, it would cost more than $10,000 to take him in the court. So that's not the kind of money you're dealing with when you're dealing with Hollywood guys. You cannot take the first offer at all unless they're going to pay you up front. Then maybe. Like if some guy offered me 10 grand to write a screenplay, I'd be like, yeah, sure. Pay me up front and I'll write your damn screenplay. But, you know, if it's like I had a producer say, oh, write the screenplay first and then we'll sell it. I'm like, no, I gotta spend weeks writing a screenplay. You pay me. You gotta stick to your guns. So, I mean, in that respect for the writer's strike, I hope they get money, but most of them, I don't know. Not a lot of talented guys in that mix, in my view. AMS, I wrote a pilot for this guy in the music industry who wanted to transition to TV. It was a great concept. I did all the work. He presented me with a contract that stated I could negotiate pay after he sold it. I didn't sign, copyrighted it. Guess whose show it is now? LOL. Exactly. You gotta see, in the business, serious guys talk about the money up front, right? So if it's a serious guy and it's low budget, sure. You know, if I'm gonna get paid, I take the money and run. That's fine. I don't care if he makes millions of dollars as an afterthought. Good for him. I got my money. You know, because I've written a ton of screenplays for guys who paid me, and they've never made the screenplays, as far as I know. I mean, literally dozens of them. And, you know, they're good screenplays, I think, but the movies haven't been made because a lot of movies just don't get made. And it's not my fault. You got to get the money. It's hard to get the money. It's millions of dollars. And that's another whole thing. You got to... AMS, if I sell it, he'll sue me even though I have a copyright, but that's the price of doing business. I'm good with that. Yeah, that's why, like, to some extent, you just, unless there's money in it, you just got to work on your own. You know, you can't pay your bills on promises. You have to pay your bills with money. And so, you know, guys talk to me. I mean, I had a rash of people who would just email me and just go, oh, if you write the screenplay, we'll make so much money. I'll go, oh, I'm glad you're very confident in it. Great, pay me half. Pay me half now, and I'll write the screenplay. No, I don't have it. What do you mean? We're going to make so much money. Well, if you believe that, take out a loan at the bank and pay me, and then you make all the money. So, but realistically, I had a guy, he asked me to, he wanted to have a meeting about a screenplay idea he had. I said, okay. And I charged him $50 for a consultation. It was the first time I did a consultation. And I said, I'll come by and we'll have lunch or something. You pay me $50 and I'll give you advice on what you should do with your concept. So he pitched this concept, and it was a very solid concept. And I explained to him the facts of movies. I said, okay, so in order for this to work, you need a screenplay. I said, you could hire me to write the screenplay. And I gave him a price, and he probably could have paid it. It was a cheap price. And I said, then I'm done. You got to take the screenplay around and try to sell it, or try to raise the money for it, or try to get an actor attached to it, or a director, or both. So then you could take it around and get some money for it. And it's very difficult, and it's a long, arduous process. And once I explained to him the process, it took me about a half hour. He was like, okay, I guess I'm not going to do this. I go, yeah, it's a pain in the ass. And then some clients I would explain that to, and they would go, well, I'll figure it out. AMS, upfront is nice, but that can benefit them too. I want equity, negotiated 25% of the final sale as the first timer, but guess what? He never signed, so when I sell it, I get 100%. That's true. But, it depends on who you're dealing with and whether or not they have any money. Again, it's all about the money. If they don't have the money, then you can't really help them until they either get money or come up with a deal that makes sense for you, or promote one of your screenplays or something like that. It's all very difficult, and it always comes back to one thing: money, 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 money in the movie industry. AMS, great chatting, by the way. This chat will be overflowing, so I'm taking advantage. Ha ha ha. No worries. I think I'm about ready to wrap, but I think I had a couple more headlines. New rumor reveals main villains for James Gunn's Superman legacy film. I think this was the only one. Yeah, it's just this one. Is it Bizarro? It looks like Bizarro in the picture. Superman versus the Authority right off the bat. That doesn't sound great. Sifa, yeah, it's nice to have Tony for ourselves for now. Sure, ask me anything. Yeah, the Authority, I don't think anybody knows who the hell the Authority is. I think that's going to be a very bad move. I don't know. A lot of people raved about this comic when it came out, but like a lot of comics that are superhero comics, they're kind of versions of superheroes. Like they're kind of versions of Superman and Batman and a few others. So I don't know. Superman versus the Authority, I guess. So whatever. Oh, and here's The Sound of Freedom. Filmmaker wants film to help save kids from trafficking. This does look like a good film. I don't know why Hollywood's so against promote. I mean, I kind of do, but I kind of don't understand why they wouldn't just release this film, because it'll just kind of come and go. Now that they made a big deal about it, now it's gotten more attention than it normally would have. So, I don't know what they're doing, but so yeah, The Sound of Freedom's coming out. I kind of want to see it. It looks good. Looks like it'll be standard. They had an amazing line from it. So Cavazelli is talking to one of his bros they're in some sort of task force. They take down these JC, I read the Frank Quietly issue of The Authority. Was it good? So they take down these traffickers. And Cavazelli says something like, yeah, we've taken down 298 traffickers. And the other guy goes, yeah, but how many of the kids did you save? And that's when he realizes, like, oh my God, we haven't saved many of the kids. Nothing compared to the amount of traffickers we've taken in. Where are all the kids? In other words, It was a good line. AMS, because Bryan Singer is blocking it, LMO. You know. The human trafficking movie. Oh, okay. I get it. That's a joke. That's a joke, YouTube and Hollywood. JC, art was good, LOL. Yeah, I don't know. The Authority didn't look that great. I mean, everybody raved about it, and I just thought, it just looks like another superhero book to me. And nobody could quite articulate what was great about it, which is why I never bought it. Like, if somebody said, you know, like, what was that stupid comic from Image, where the guy solves mysteries by eating the food? Oh, what the hell is it called? I forget, but like that sounded like an interesting concept. I bought the first issue. Sif Sifa, they're flooding countries to stop the people knowing about trafficking. The movie is hardly going to come out. Yeah, I don't know what Again, they could have just released it. It's just another movie. In the scheme of things, I don't think it's going to change the world, but you never know. And was there anything else? Why did I have the Post-Millennial open? I guess I had that open for my previous stuff. Post-Millennial gets kind of depressing with all the stuff that's going on. Not too much Hollywood stuff. A lot of LGBTQIA2S plus stuff. Chew, that was it, JEC. Thank you. Yeah, I got the first issue of Chew. It was worth some money. It wasn't a bad concept. I kind of liked it. But yeah, it's like, that to me is an interesting concept comic. And there's been a few like that, but if you can't articulate a different concept as a superhero, especially superheroes, come on, you gotta have something different. Then, what the hell am I reading it for? Like, one guy had this interesting concept of it was a superhero universe where anybody who gets superpowers gets them, but eventually the power kills them, and it only lasts for about a week. So that was kind of a different thing. So like, you would be reading the comics and you would see whether or not the character would use their powers for good or use their powers for evil, but either way, at the end they die. JC, didn't like the art in Chew. It was alright. AMS, Tony, do you know who Douglas Murray is? Check him out. If not, he eviscerates leftist LGBT MNLP ideology on a regular basis. I've heard the name. I've watched so many of those videos. I watch a lot of James Lindsay, and even his I'm like so far behind on now. It's just endless. It gets depressing after a while. I have to sort of like cut myself off from those videos and just say, okay, I can't watch any more of this for a while. If you want to see some craziness in that arena, go to the Bud Light Twitter feed under their responses for any recent tweets, and then click hidden, and you'll see some spicy images. I'll just say it's brutal. Some of them were very funny, but some of them were very brutal. Like, oh, I'm so sorry I clicked on this. Sif Sifa, has the gay not the quay? AMS, Lindsay is dry. Murray is a witty guy, man. I love him. I have to check him out. I like Lindsay because he seems kind of angry. I like it. I like Lindsay's kind of anger, because when he gets on a roll, he just starts talking how like, yeah, we're all gonna be killed by the communists unless you do something. Sif Sifa, Akira the Don makes good music with Murray speaking. Oh, yeah, I have to check it out. All right, I have to wrap because it's 11:15 and I really have to go to the bathroom. And if I make this any longer, I won't be able to upload the damn clip onto my other platforms. So let's get in final thoughts. final thoughts. Yeah, it's going to be a week of talking about the Flash. I think on YouTube, it's going to be, how incredible the Flash. I assume Nerdrotic will do a whole video about it. Night Night AMS. Oh, and make sure you check out Doomcock if you haven't checked out Doomcock's video. He's had some great videos on. Tonight he had one on Kathleen Kennedy getting humiliated at the Indiana Jones premiere. JC, I like Akira the Dom's Christmas music. Sif Sifa, farewells, dudes. Good vibes all around. Good vibes to you. Good vibes to all, except Little Joan, who left the stream early, as always. I don't know what I can do. I don't know what I can do. Joan just leaves the stream, leaves me hanging. All right, so this week, more videos. So checking out. If any AMS, if you have any screenwriting questions you'd like me to address in a screenwriter's tip or something, please feel free to shoot me a comment at some point or email or whatever. Happy to do that. My next event is at a book club on Tuesday at Fort Mont. It's way down south in South Jersey. And then on Thursday, I'll be at Vinyl Brewing in Hamilton, New Jersey from 5 to 9. Sif Sifa, Joan abandoned her people. She's going to sleep on the couch and hopefully not bark because it's getting late. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I will see you on the next one.